Welcome to our highlights of the weekend of competition at Brisbane's QE2 Stadium. And welcome to our commentary team, to Olympic gold medalist Debbie Flintoff-King, doubling up at the championships as a TV commentator and a relay runner for Victoria.
And Debbie still about 40 metres from the lead. Well, Debbie's really got her work cut out, and it's been an excellent opening by the South Australians. They're running very well, and they have, of course, the exciting young junior Tanya Van Heer to anchor, so maybe they'll be the ones. Kathy Samble's run a great leg, though, for New South Wales. She's really eaten into that lead. And the Tasmanians with Gail Luke are also plugging on there in third. I think we've got an exciting race.
Let's hope this task isn't as difficult as that, but we've got a World Cup and a Commonwealth Games in the next 12 months. Have you seen things here to be optimistic about?
I think the good thing that I've seen this weekend is the number of young athletes coming through, the under-18s and the under-20s, and it looks good for the Australian athletics.
Well, the titles have certainly confirmed the emergence of some exciting young sprinting stars. Both 100 metres in men's and women's mix the old with the new.
There's Shane Naylor, the big bad bruiser from Victoria, defending champion in the men's 100 metres, but with a big task to hold on to that title. A New South Wales trio headed by the lightly built David Devoyanen, who's dominated 100-metre running in Australia this summer. And that trio also includes former junior champion Tim Jackson and Clayton Carney. There's the field, Elliot Bunny of Scotland, giving it an international look and a classy look. Ford of Victoria, then Carney, Naylor, Jackson and Devoyanen, four of the big chances in 3, 4, 5 and 6. Then Levy, Guthrie and McBain. Pretty open 100 and a really interesting race, Debbie Flintoff-King.
Yes, it will be very interesting. I think with the headwind, maybe Shane may have a little bit of an advantage because he's very strongly built, but David Devoyanen and Tim Jackson will definitely be up there, and I think it'll be first, second and third with those three.
Devoyanen, the fastest qualifier in 10.53, not much slower than his best of 10.47, so he ran a very good semi-final. Did he overdo it, I wonder? Naylor ran a 10.63 and Carney a 10.57. But Jackson winning his in 10.71 looked good.
He did. Jackson looked lovely in his heat. I felt that he even just relaxed the last 10, 20 metres, so it'd be interesting to see if he was saving himself for this race.
And away, Naylor a little slow. Carney beat him out. Devoyanen in front of Naylor. Naylor coming hard. Devoyanen, Naylor, and Jackson coming hard too, but Devoyanen's got it won. Naylor might have hung on for second, Jackson third. But David beats the Goliaths. David Devoyanen, that is, who wins the men's 100 metres. Great performance and completes a string of excellent wins in 100-metre racing in Australia this summer.
Excellent race, and the time was good too, especially with the windy conditions.
Always in control.
Always in control, right from the very beginning. Shane got out very well. I think he may have got third, but we'll wait and see for the results there.
And if we thought the big fellows might run over the little man in the last 50 metres into the wind, we were well wrong, because Devoyanen was coming away from them to win by a metre. Jackson dipping at the line, but I don't reckon he got his trunk there in front of Naylor.
No, Naylor would have got second.
Naylor second, he and Jackson recording exactly the same time. Devoyanen's 10.57, excellent into a 4.1 metre per second headwind. It's a memorable name, a new one at this level. Jerry Collins found out why from Devoyanen.
Had injuries the last 2 years or so. I've been running well, it's just when it came up to major things that I haven't been able to compete, so yeah, I'm really happy with that one now.
So did you have a perfect preparation for this?
Yeah, almost. I got a lot of race practice in, which I think I needed, which is probably what Shane was lacking over 100 metres, so yeah, I had a really good build-up.
Marie Holland, Olympic Games 400-metre finalist, fourth place getter at the recent World Indoors, and going for a treble at these nationals in the 100, 200 and 400, but they might be a bit fast for her here. Next to her in lane 5 is Suzanne Broderick of Western Australia, who's overcome a string of injuries to be a real chance in this, and also great chances in 2 and 3. Sue Butler and Kathy Sambell, both of New South Wales, in an open field, Debbie.
Yes, it's good to see a lot of the younger girls coming through. I think it's a quiet year for the older ones, and the young ones are taking over this season. And it'll be interesting to see the start of Marie, because I know she always feels it's hard to get out, because it'd be a lot faster than a 400 flat running.
She didn't quite go with them. Broderick is up there with the leaders, and over on the far side, Pirovano. Broderick just in front on this side, Sullivan. But Broderick is well clear, and Broderick wins a blanket for second, with lanes 1, 2 and 3. Pirovano, Butler and Sambell hitting it together. It's Suzanne Broderick of Western Australia in great style. Unofficially at 11.7 on the scoreboard, so a very fine run.
It was a good run. She's only 20 years old, Suzanne, and I think it's lovely to see, as I said, the younger ones coming through, especially in the sprints where we've been lacking a bit for quite a while. She has got lovely action.
Seemed to really dominate in mid-race. She had a couple with her, but really started to pull away.
Yes, it was unfortunate to see Marie start off slow. She thought she might start slow because she always can't get out of the rhythm of the 400 running. But she'll run much better in the 200.
So Broadrick streeting them in the end to win the women's 100, and how close it is for second and third, with Butler and Sam Bell, I think, hitting it just about together. Pirovano also over there obscured by the two of them.
In fact, the three of them were given the same time of 11.94. Sam Bell got second and Butler third, but Broadwick 11.71 into a 1.8 metre per second headwind. Well, Naylor and Holland both went to the World Indoors, both eclipsed by rowers and shot putters. Mike McCann wasn't intimidated by the grunts and the groans as he went out to watch the big men in action.
Hammer throwers are a strange breed. No, they're not built like athletic thoroughbreds, Deke, Awita, Flojo or Carl. But then again, Deke and co couldn't toss a lump of metal 60 to 70 metres. It's a sport for the heavyweights. But in wet conditions, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Commonwealth Games bronze medalist Phil Spivey set the early standard with an opening round 67 metres 42. Throughout the 80s, Spivey's forged a great rivalry with his old mate Joe Quigley. And this time, Genial Joe had all the answers. He could have won with any of his first 5 throws, the best of them, this 71 metres 22 effort in the 4th round. That was almost 4 metres up on his nearest rival. And with it, he regained the national title he lost to Sean Carlin last year. Carlin's best here was 67 metres 24, well down on the 72 metres 90 he threw to victory 12 months ago. But Carlin's one of the younger brigade, and he's poised to be one of the stars of the 90s. For the moment, though, the national crown's worn by Joe Quigley, an easy winner from Phil Spivey and Sean Carlin third.
And while on the subject of big fellows, meet John Minns. He's decided to make the often neglected shot put a glamour sport. Here at the Nationals, Minns is wearing the traditional Victorian state attire, but usually it's his rainbow-coloured clothing as much as his throwing that makes the headlines.
I went to bright colours to try and promote shot putting a lot better. It's not the highest in athletics. The reaction of it's not too bad. I just like to throw a little bit further, I think, that's all.
His throwing this season has been one of the highlights of track and field, with an Australian record of 19 metres 64 in January, breaking his own record by 19 centimetres. Today he had a best of 18.65 to complete a hat-trick of national titles. Already, Minns is ranked #1 in the Commonwealth, but at 21, this Geelong chook farmer's only a spring chicken, and he'll continue to improve.
Well, the next Olympics I hope to be throwing high 21s. This year I've got the World Cup coming up and I like to do well in that, and then the Commonwealth Games after that, so I hope to do well in our winter coming up, yes.
Minns first with 18.65, Werner Reiter a second 17.13, and the hammer champion Joe Quigley third 16.85.
Well, track and field, a sport of great diversity, diverse disciplines, diverse frames. Do they frighten you?
The big people?
Yeah.
I think it's great to see John Minns getting out there and trying to promote his own sport with wearing different colours, and I think he's done the job because people are noticing.
Stay with us, we've got some hurdling coming up.
Good.
And first, it's the sprints, and Australia's women, minus Jane Fleming, facing an international onslaught.
A very open field in the women's high hurdles. Wilson is the New South Wales champion, Miller Cubitt, Tasmanian champion, Hodgson in 3. Pirovano of New Zealand is the fastest and the fastest qualifier here, but Albertine Ann of French Polynesia beat her in the New Zealand titles. There's Drury of Victoria, Sinclair Burke, a junior from Tasmania, Scott, a heptathlete from Canada, and Vanessa Jack, a junior from New Zealand, and she was second behind Albertine Ann in the New Zealand titles. And Debbie Flintoff-King, a wide open race.
It certainly is here. We've got a wide open race without Jane Fleming, who's actually doing a couple of events at these championships, but not the hurdles. And also having 2 New Zealanders, a French Polynesian and a Canadian, is quite interesting.
And the New Zealanders vying for selection in the Oceania World Cup team. A win here to Pirovano or Jack would achieve that. And they're away, and Pirovano got out brilliantly, leading Albertine Ann. Over on the far side is Wilson of New South Wales. Pirovano from Albertine Ann, who's coming at her in the red. Pirovano just in front, and a New Zealand victory in the women's high hurdles. Pirovano beats Albertine Ann. Wilson third, and close between Jack and Miller Cubit for fourth placing.
New Zealand first, French Polynesia second, and Kim Wilson thus wins the Australian title by being the first domestic runner home, and the winner's time 13.82.
There's Don Wright, the defending champion and the man who's dominated Australian high hurdling through the 1980s, but he is going to face one heck of a battle to hold on to his title in 1989. Tremendously even field. Tim Soper of New Zealand, Commonwealth Games representative, second in the New Zealand title. Steve Saunders from South Australia. Right, outside him is Dean Capobianco, a young sensation from Western Australia. Grant McNeil won the New Zealand title in 14.19. John Caliguri will be breathing down Wright's neck. He nearly beat him in Perth last year. Simon Pullman, New Zealand decathlete, who was sixth at the World Championships in the decathlon in 87. Anthony Briggs, star of Neighbours, and Robert Tupahoe of French Polynesia. Great field, Debbie.
Really good field, actually. John Caliguri has probably got the best time down on paper, but it'd be quite interesting to see exactly what they do out there today. I think Don will probably come through and do well, but as you said, he will have a hard battle with it.
Capobianco in the gold and black of Western Australia, next to Wright. On his left, as we look at the picture, was a member of the Australian 4x400 relay team, which won a silver medal at the World Junior Championships last year, but he had an appendicitis attack after running in the semi-finals and couldn't compete in the final. But apparently an outstanding young sportsman who we'll hear a lot more of. He might be running the stall gift too. McNeil next to him, the New Zealand champion, then Caliguri, Pullman, the decathlete, Briggs, the film star, Tupahoe, the French Polynesian. And over in lane 3, the veteran, twice Commonwealth Games bronze medalist in this event, once on this very track, Don Wright. Looked a pretty good even break. Caliguri got the best of it. Wright's up there too, so Saunders. Caliguri from Wright, Saunders and Capobianco. Wright coming at Caliguri. Gets to him at the second last, right in front, and Don Wright does it again. Caliguri second, very close for third, either McNeil or Capobianco. But the veteran Don Wright comes through in great style.
It was great to see. I always like to see a champion win like that, and it was a great run for Don.
Gave him start and picked him up.
Yes, that's right. John started really well, and Don just brought him back to it and then went ahead with it.
Tell us about their techniques. You should know a bit about that, even over the high ones.
I've always liked Don's technique because he always gets down low over the hurdles, and as you can see, he's got lovely long strides, and he's just dipping for the line. Great dipping too.
Just under 14 seconds, perhaps. Don running his best ever on this track at the Commonwealth Games when he took the bronze medal behind Mark McCoy and Mark Holtham, and he wins yet another Australian title in great style from Caliguri, and a tremendous finish for third.
7th straight national title to Don Wright of the ACT.
Don, it was a bit of a tardy start there.
Yes, I walked out of the blocks almost. It was like I didn't know whether I wanted the race to be run or not, you know, being unsure of the outcome, but picked it up on the way through, and John, every time John and I have raced this season, we've been neck and neck, and all I had to do was concentrate on each one, and held it together very well, so perhaps that's a bit of the experience coming out.
Lee Miller of Victoria is the defending champion in the men's 400 hurdles, with a best time of 49.85 last year. He's the 6th fastest Australian all-time, and competed at the Olympic Games in Seoul in 1988. But he's got his work cut out here with Andrew Zorzit in lane 3, who had a win over Miller, first time he's been beaten this season at Melbourne's Olympic Park about 10 days ago. And Ken Gordon, who's won the title, I think, 3 times. Former Queenslander, now competing for the ACT in lane 4. Good three-way race, Debbie?
It's an excellent race, and with all 3 of them qualifying already for the Commonwealth Games, so it'll be an exciting race. But not to mention Kevin Oakey, he's had some good runs under his belt as well.
Best this season of 51.10, so he's not far behind them. Oakey drawn in lane 6. 9 starters. ND in the outside, then Briggs close. Oakey, Miller in the middle in 5. Gordon and Zorzet inside him with a good view of the title holder, then Misson and Hollingsworth.
Lee has actually already qualified 5 times for the Commonwealth Games, and he won the double in the Vicks with the 4 hurdles and the 4 flat.
All off the blocks nice and cleanly from the outside, and Dean leads them towards the first. Watching Miller, I think he got there just before Gordon and Zorzet, and he's gone pretty fast. In fact, he's already covering Oakey on his outside over in the back straight. The 3 outside runners almost together, Dean, Briggs and Close. Then it's back to Oakey and Miller, who's run a good first 200, but Gordon not too far away, and Zorzet closing on him. Zorzet in the green shorts and the white top is looking good. Now they've got 4 to go, and Miller and Zorzet over that one almost together. Now coming off the bend, Miller goes past Oakey. Zorzet straightens up alongside Oakey, but Miller's got them strung out. 1 hurdle to go. Miller muffed the last hurdle at Olympic Park in Melbourne when he was beaten, but he didn't muff it this time, and Lee Miller's coming away to a big win. He won't break 50 seconds, but he wins comprehensively. Oakey probably hung on for second from Zorzet, but Olympian Lee Miller all the way. Fine win in the 400 hurdles.
An excellent run, another qualifying for Lee too, which is for the Commonwealth Games.
On the scoreboard at 50.65.
Lee's gone out quite hard. He's got problems with his stepping, and the fact that he's doing 15s but wanting to do 14 strides, but he has to learn how to hurdle with both legs confidently. But he handled it very well. He had a tailwind down the back straight, which pushes him more onto the hurdles, but he's looking great and very strong at the end. With Kevin Oakey coming through well, he'll be really pleased with that.
Miller wins, Oakey second, and Zorzet third.
Sweet revenge for Lee Miller after a recent setback to Andrew Zorzet, and former champion Ken Gordon finishing out of a place 4th. The women's 400 hurdles didn't include Debbie Flintoff-King, Jenny Laurenday or Sally Hamilton-Fleming, and Helen Graham of New South Wales won in just under 60 seconds. Well, when is the Olympic gold medalist going to step out over the hurdles again?
My first race will probably be in the European circuit in June.
And the World Cup, Darren Clark saying there's a problem with having personal coaches. What about when they're husbands?
It is a problem because when the coaches go over there, they're not allowed to be with the athletes. And I think it's not so much staying with your husband or coach, it's the fact that they can get onto the training track that's very important, because it's like having a football team that's got them all through the year and they're not at the grand final.
We look forward to seeing you against the best in the world soon. Now back to the field, where Mike McCann watched 2 world-class competitors.
When you think of the long jump in Australia, you think of Gary Honey. Every year since 1981, he's been national champion, dominating the event like no one's done before. But if things had gone right, he'd have retired by now. But in Seoul last year at the Olympics, things didn't go right. He was injured. He was forced to sit out the event. And watch this man, Carl Lewis, win it again.
Carl Lewis hasn't been beaten in the long jump for more than 7 years. The tradition continued in today's final.
I don't for any second think I would have beaten Carl, but I think I would have been in there with the other 2 guys. So, I mean, yeah, it was the major disappointment of my career, but I've got to just pick it up now and win the Commonwealth Games in January.
So, 4 months shy of his 30th birthday, Gary Honey goes on, determined to find a happier note on which to finish his career than on the sidelines in Seoul. An 8-metre leap first up made this event the one-horse race everyone expected. Fellow Olympian David Colbert is regarded as Honey's heir apparent, but after an early 7.50, he retired with a recurrence of a heel injury. A 3rd Victorian, Michael Morgan, was eyeing 2nd place after 7 metres 79, but with his final leap, the 20-year-old Queenslander, Clint Harvey, pipped him with 7.81. Honey, though, was never in danger. At 8 metres 11 with a wind at his back was the perfect way to wrap up title number 10. So Honey first with 8.11, Harvey second, 7.81, and Morgan third, 7.79. And what about next year?
I'm not sort of making any sort of promises at this stage. There's a lot of options after the Commonwealth Games. We'll just see what happens. All this talk of sponsorship money sounds pretty attractive, so we might just keep it going.
As Gary Honey's done in the long jump, for over a decade, the women's discus in Australia has been dominated by Gail Martin. And now there's another star, thanks to Daniela Costain's decision to defect from Romania. The 23-year-old from Bucharest is a 73-metre thrower, formerly ranked #2 in the world, and she chose to make Australia her home last September.
I hope to go in Commonwealth Games next year in 1990, but first I need to have citizenship, you know, to go in Commonwealth Games you need citizen, and after that I want to go in next Olympic Games for Australia in 1992 in Barcelona, and to win a lot of gold medal for Australia.
With 66 metres 72 with her final throw, Australia's adopted star easily won today's discus from another newcomer to the Nationals, Sydney's 17-year-old wonder girl, Lisa Marie Vizignati, who says her recent national age records are due in some way to the presence of Daniela Costain.
In Australia, they haven't got any good models, and we always keep on looking at bad models, so that's why we have bad technique. And like, since she came along, she's a good model, you know what I mean? It's been great to have her here and looking at her technique.
Is she the main reason for your improvement this year?
My coach has been helping me, but when your coach tells you what you're doing wrong, do that, but when you see it, you know, this is it, this is what you're doing wrong, so you know what's going on.
The official result, Costain first, 66.72, Vizignati second, 55.94, and last year's winner, Astra Etienne third, 54.54.
Notwithstanding Debbie Flintoff-King's Olympic gold medal, Australia's highest quality event today is the men's 400 metres. Many believe it's got a lot to do with the inspiration provided by Moscow's silver medalist, Rick Mitchell, who's replaced Debbie in the chair. She'll be back shortly. Rick, apart from you, what factors are there in Australia's very strong 400 running?
I think the role model thing is important, Tim, and I guess I made the initial breakthrough, but more importantly, Darren Clark also came through fairly quickly. We've had 4 consecutive Olympic finals now with Australian representation in the 400, and I think it's made the youngsters realise that a number of us are capable of doing it.
Well, let's go to the glamour event, the men's 400.
There's Darren Clark, 4th for the 2nd consecutive Olympic Games in Seoul last year, and we're seeing him for only the 2nd time in open competition at a national championships. He won in Adelaide in 1986. He's favoured to win here, but it's early in his preparation and an acid test for the champion young New South Welshman. Crackfield for the men's 400, Mark Garner, an Olympian from New South Wales, Mohammed Al-Malki from Oman. For the 2nd consecutive year, won the NEC Classic at Olympic Park in Melbourne. Robert Ballard, Miles Murphy, defending champion, ran that slashing 44.71 in Perth last year, and also the outstanding World Junior representative medalist there, Stephen Perry from New South Wales. And Rick Mitchell, you love your 400s, you'll love this.
I'll enjoy every second of this, Tim, because it really is a high-quality field. Great to consider that at the national titles we've got 3 sub-45 second runners in the same race. And while it is early days for Darren, I think he'll pull too many punches for the field, although Al-Malki, as a fellow Olympic finalist, is very, very tough. But nonetheless, you know, someone like Steve Perry is also capable of getting right into this race. It's a great field. Fascinating possibilities could unfold for us.
Very windy at the moment too, won't make it easy.
It won't make it easy. I wouldn't expect a scintillating time, but I think we've got a great race coming up.
And away they go. Clark flew off the blocks as Perry leads them away from the outside. Rosenberg on his outside, in fact, in the gold. Tuna in the yellow top and green shorts. Then Clark behind him has left Murphy a little bit. In fact, Ballard on Murphy's inside has him covered. And there's a great shot of Clark over in the back straight, looking tremendous as he reaches the 200 metres. But it'll be very interesting as they go round the bend and then straighten up. Clark looking good, but Ballard's gone very fast through the first 230. And Al-Malki looking good too, leaving Garner and Clark, Charles Clark in his wake. Into the straight, Al-Malki, Ballard and Darren Clark. Al-Malki and Clark have got Ballard beaten. Clark looking really good though. Al-Malki tying up in the straight, and Clark looking pretty comfortable, is coming down to win it by 3 metres. Al-Malki second, Ballard a big run for third, Garner 4th. Miles Murphy back in about 5th or 6th position, but a loud round of applause for Darren Clark, winning his 2nd national 400-metre title.
A very good performance by Darren. You can see at this stage of the race he's got them covered, maybe foxing a bit, feeling the pinch a touch. I think he felt that might happen today, but he just has a glance and knows he has them covered. Al-Malki just starting to tie up a little after running beautifully off the turn. Darren by 2 metres, 45.9, a similar time, in fact, to when Bert Cameron won the Commonwealth Games title in this stadium under similar blustery conditions. So,
officially 46 seconds for Clark. He wouldn't be too disappointed in that. As Rick Mitchell said, the conditions very difficult.
I was actually very confident coming into the straight. Before the race, I was, I can't explain how nervous I was. I didn't think, I was out here early this morning for the 200 heats and they were cancelled, so I was out at the track since 8:30 this morning. And I had all that time to think about it, and the nerves were getting up and getting up, and I'm just glad to finish it.
Why nervous in Australia when you've been to an Olympics?
Well, everybody said to me, oh, you've got it on toast. That's not the case. You know, there's some really talented athletes out there. Miles has run 44.7. Mark Garner, Steve Perry, Muhammad Al-Malki, Olympic finalist. You've got to give those guys credit, and you can't underestimate anybody.
Now the men's 800, and we join it approaching the bell.
So Doyle it is from Favia. Now there are 2 Victorians in the race. That's Bannick running up into second position as they get the bell. Doyle, Bannick, Favia up there, and Akers now moving up into 4th.
he has moved up into 4th, although he's copped a little bit of rough stuff. And you can see there's some more going on there. That's not going to do much for his rhythm. And I think Doyle's going very strongly out in the lead at this point in time, and he could well be hard to run down. The moves really should start to happen from here on in.
Downs of Victoria in 66 makes a move at the 200-metre point, and he runs up towards Doyle's shoulder, but Doyle looking good and strong inside 200. Doyle leads from Downs. Favia trying to hang on the outside. Banning back on the inside. I don't think Akers can go on. Doyle with the home crowd supporting him. Kicks as they go into the straight. Leads from Doyle and Marks of South Australia. And Simon Doyle comes down to the line to win. Tremendous finish from Downs of Victoria, who might have snatched second position. Or Polkinghorne it was, but in fact Simon Doyle a clear-cut winner in the men's 800. Richard Polkinghorne flew from the rear of the field to grab second.
But Doyle winning in just under 150 from Polkinghorne, and Rodney Marks of South Australia third. Now Doyle doubling up, chasing Victoria's Dean Paulin in the 1500.
Australian record held by Mike Hillard, 3:33.39. They won't be troubling that. If they could do anything under 3:40, they'd be absolutely delighted. They've got under 300 to run. And with a really fast run home, they mightn't be too far away from it. Paulin, Doyle, Ritchie. And this is going to be a tremendous finish with about 130 metres to go as Doyle tackles Paulin. Throws out the challenge, but Paulin with bold front running leads into the straight. Ritchie struggling. Paulin from Doyle. Tremendous running from Dean Paulin. This has been a really gutsy effort out in front. And Dean Paulin wins his first National Open title, winning the men's 1500 metres. Again, that qualifying standard for the Commonwealth Games just eludes him. 3:41.3, but another tremendous front-running performance from Simon Doyle and Glenn Ritchie.
He's been frustratingly close a number of times to that 3:40, the Commonwealth Games qualifying standard, but a good win over Simon Doyle and Glenn Ritchie. Well, quite a contrast. We've never assembled a better domestic 400-metre event, and yet the 800 and 1500 down on strength, Rick.
Yes, that's true, Tim, and I guess the main reason for that is the absence of the better runners over the last few years in Pat Scammell, and in particular Mike Hillard, who's presently out with injury. I think that's robbed the event of...
In the women's 400 metres, and Rick Mitchell, she really looks a cut above the rest of the field. Second, third, fourth and fifth on the Australian rankings aren't present for this event.
That's indeed true, Tim. She certainly came of age last year at the Seoul Olympic Games. Great running to get through to the final. I think she'll have too many guns for the rest of the field. Interestingly, though, through the semis, the times for the rest of the field were around the 54.1 to 54.6 mark. So I think behind Marie, the silver very much up for grabs. One athlete who did well in the juniors last week was Susan Andrews from Tasmania in the outside lane.
Holland in midfield. And away in the women's 400 metres, Marie Holland running in lane 5, looking to defend her title. And she clearly is Australia's outstanding flat 400-metre runner at the moment. Be interesting to see Debbie Flintoff-King running against her, but Holland's time's now outstanding as she gets down towards 50 seconds. although I don't think she'll do that today in very blustery conditions. The wind behind her at the moment as she's got all those on her outside covered. Just Andrews over in lane 9 is continuing to hold her out. But when she comes off the stagger, Holland will be in front. Over near the inside, Baumgartner doing well, and also Stenberg, or Harris it is, in lane 2, who's going fast. As Holland leads into the straight, Harris running a big race in lane 2. Baumgartner is third, and Andrews running well over on the outside. But it's all Marie Holland halfway down the straight. In the women's 400, Andrews fighting back on the outside, gets up to be second from Baumgartner. Holland wins comfortably, perhaps just inside 52 seconds. Andrews second, Baumgartner third, but as expected, a big win to Marie Holland.
Very comfortable win for Marie Holland. She had the field really covered at the halfway mark, which of course is what you'd expect, as we indicated earlier, from one who is an Olympic finalist. Great run from Susan Andrews in the outside lane, the young 17-year-old Tasmanian. But you can see here, 50, 60 metres from home, lovely controlled running from Marie Holland, not tying up at all. She knows she's got the better of this field. Kerry Baumgartner just running through in the middle lanes to get into second place, with Sandra Skeggs, the Tasmanian, also coming through on the outside. But Marie Holland first, Daylight second, really. The interesting thing, I think, will be to see what sort of time young Susan Andrews has produced in running second from lane 9 as a 17-year-old, which is a very good performance.
Holland at about 52 or just under, and Andrews 8 metres behind, taking second, with Baumgartner third. Holland in a class of her own, and in the windy conditions wouldn't be disappointed with 52.01.
I feel if I hadn't gone to Budapest, I may not have run as well here. I was lacking motivation after the Olympics, and the little trip over to Budapest did me the world of good, I think.
In the 800, Sharon Stewart is our latest hope to break the 2-minute barrier.
For Sharon.
So it's Gail Miller-Luke leading, Baumgartner just behind her, Stewart moving up into third placing just outside Wendy Old as they come down to complete the first lap, and they're outside the minute. So it's not a very fast first lap.
No, I'm surprised. I think everyone's just sitting there.
Oh, and there's a fall. There is a fall, and it's Wendy Old who's come down. So great disappointment to a former national champion. And she is terribly distraught. They've got 300 metres to run back on the pace, and Gail Miller-Luke leads from Kerry Baumgartner, and Sharon Stewart making her move now. But Miller-Luke has kicked a little with 250 to run, trying to catch them napping, but Stewart, not to be caught napping, moves past Baumgartner at the 200.
Sharon actually has a faster 400 flat time than Gail, so it really is going to tell this last 200, and she's actually past Gail now, running really strongly.
Well, she finished superbly at Olympic Park when she recorded that great time, and it was most unusual to see an Australian come home so strongly in an 800-metre race. Let's see if she can do it again.
Looking great.
In the home straight, as we've ticked past 152, she's nicely clear, and she's going to win comfortably. Sarah Collins is coming from the rear and will probably run second. Stewart holding pretty good form as she goes down to the line, not as fast as she was in Melbourne, but a comfortable victory nonetheless. Collins takes second, and Baumgartner got third ahead of Miller-Luke. Sharon Stewart racking up some pretty impressive 800-metre victories, and a time there of 2:03.17. Not quite as good as in Melbourne, but pretty good. In the 1500 metres, the diminutive Elizabeth Rose of New South Wales, who's been on the scene for a long time, broke through to win a national title just outside the Commonwealth Games qualifying standard of 4:15, but she was delighted with her win from Sarah Collins, a place getter in both the middle distance events, and Wendy Old took third. Back in the middle of the arena, those diverse and colourful field events were continuing, and one of the most competitive through the 80s has been the women's high jump. At the end of the decade, our 80 stalwarts are being challenged by some young, exciting talents.
Only a week ago, Vanessa Ward didn't think she'd be competing in the women's high jump at the Nationals.
I have a stress fracture of the tibia, which is on my right leg, which is the takeoff leg, and I was out for 3 weeks, total rest. So I was actually supposed to have 6 weeks rest, but 3 weeks was enough. I got pretty bored and uppity, and I said to my coach, well, look, there's got to be something I can do.
They decided to battle on with light training, and the moves paid dividends with Ward beating a class field, including Christine Stanton, a 3-times Olympic finalist, and also Gay Kaepernick. She's the Queensland teenager who soared to great heights at this month's World Indoor Championships in Budapest.
First attempt, 1 metre 91. She's had a very good competition to date. Comes forward now, swerves, and over. A first up clearance at 1 metre 91, and Gay Kaepernick is certainly doing very well in this event. That is a personal best for her, and isn't she happy?
Back home and exposed to the elements at QE2, Kaepernick couldn't repeat that 191. And it was Ward, who recently set a new national record of 198, who was too good. It was Ward first with 194, Stanton second at 191, and Kaepernick third at 188. And for Ward, a double reason to celebrate, with her track and field friends, the Lorraways, becoming proud parents.
Yes, congratulations, Robin and Ken. Wonderful news.
Hear, hear. Ken's been one of our teammates at ABC Sport, in fact worked with us at the 86 Commonwealth Games. Well done, Ken, Robin and young Alexander. Well, now Kerry Saxby and that 5K walk. She almost didn't compete today, arriving at the QE2 stadium this morning fuming at a commercial television report which suggested that her walking action might be illegal. Welcome back, Debbie Flintoff-King, at a controversial moment. Would you be demoralised or motivated by something like that?
I think I'd have to be motivated by that, because the walk judges over in the World Indoors didn't find anything wrong with Kerry's walking, and it's very disappointing that someone should come out and do it now. I think Kerry's a wonderful champion and she's doing great for the women's Australian sport.
What were your feelings this morning about how it might affect her, though, when the drama was going on?
Well, it could have gone either way. It could have made her think, oh, what am I doing this for, and don't bother, let's just get out of it now, or it could have really motivated her.
Well, let's see what effect it had as Kerry set out seeking a 19th world record.
The world indoor champion, the holder of just about every walking record in the book, Kerry Saxby, lining up for a start in the women's 5,000 metre track walk. And I wonder if she's headed for a 19th world record. That would break Ron Clark's Australian record.
It will be wonderful, because I think it's wonderful for Australian sport to see another female athlete out there doing so well. I did speak to her earlier on in the week, and she said that the world records are hurting too much to get, so it'll be interesting to see how many she can get, but she really has done a wonderful job in getting 18.
17 starters of the 20 who were entered, and Saxby from the middle of that lineup at the starting line, heading straight across to the front.
It's great to see so many girls in there doing the walk, because it didn't used to be a big event, and now that Kerry's done well, I think it's like a volcano effect, and there's a lot more walkers in there, which is wonderful.
To tackle her Australian and world record set at last year's national championships, 20 minutes 45.32, is having to lap at a rate of just under 1 minute 40. Now she's coming up to complete her first lap, and she is well inside that schedule. She goes through 400 metres in around 1:35, so she has gone out at a cracker pace, and this could be very interesting.
It must be hard to get out there in front all the time and just keep walking. At least in training you may have partners to walk with, or a coach that may run alongside you, but walking out there until you start lapping them, especially on the track, it must be very hard to keep your mind on the job.
Now the world record schedule at 1,400 metres is 5:48.6, and she's gone through almost 13 seconds inside that.
That's wonderful.
And the faces tell it all. It is not an easy event. Saxby with 6 laps to go, so she's completed 6.5. She's gone through the halfway point of 5 kilometres of track walking.
This is Craig Hilliard, as we see in the picture now. I believe he's working it out that Kerry's 12 seconds under her world record, so if she keeps it up, we'll see another world record here today in QE2. Each lap he looks at and makes sure that she's on schedule, and she's doing extremely well.
Now a real struggle as Kerry Saxby comes down to get the bell. $18.50 was the call as she got the bell. We're ticking up towards 20 minutes right now, so she has 45 seconds to complete the last 120 metres or so.
She may well do it. I hope everyone can get behind here. She's only got 100 metres to go.
Now that Australian record is also the world record. Kerry set it 1 year ago at the national titles in Perth. Still has 30 seconds to get down to the line. This has been a tremendous effort, one of her greatest achievements yet.
I think she's going to do it.
She is going to do it, and it's going to be her 19th world record, breaking Ron Clark's 18. And Kerry, you have done it again. Absolutely magnificent.
Oh, that one hurt.
That was an unbelievable last lap. She really lifted herself and gave it everything she had. And doesn't it show now?
What a champion.
Oh, I hope I can get it.
So do you feel you proved something now?
Yeah, sure. I don't know how I didn't stop with 3 laps to go, but I just had to push. Those noises are pushing me breathing. Because what happens, I get a stitch, and I've got to push it out.
How much were you upset by that controversy?
I was quite upset. I haven't had vision to packing my bag and chucking it in, but I thought, well, Australia aren't going to get on top of me. I thought if they can't catch me with drugs, when there was a big talk about me being on drugs, well, they have never caught me there, and I've never been on the things. It's not drugs, it's because I'm trying to cheat through judges. And I got through so many races that it's one race in my whole career that I've ever been scrubbed in, and it's just some silly person who was using a film the other day, you know, sent it up and says, how come I'm running? Whereas he didn't even look at the film properly.
So is that your answer?
That's my answer.
We still love you, Kerry. She's taken 13 seconds off her own world record. Lorraine Jackno finishing second and Bev Hayman third. Well, beware an angry Kerry Saxby. We know she's a world beater, but fired up, she's even better. Well, Debbie Flintoff-King, you and Kerry are the two outstanding performers of Australian track and field. Is there any friendly rivalry between you?
Not at all. In fact, it's nice to have someone to share the limelight with it, and I think it's great for women in sport that Kerry and I are doing well.
Hope you've enjoyed your weekend working with ABC Television Sport.
I have. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you for joining us. We haven't finished though. Coming up, the men's and women's 200, some interesting matchups, producing some very interesting results.
Well, Darren Clark, the contemporary star of Australian track racing, and he's going for a double at these national championships, 400 and 200. 200 metre, not his preferred event, but he is the best performed runner in this field with a PB of 20.49. Looks like a walk down memory lane with Paul Narracott, Peter Gandy. Clark running a 200. We don't see him do that too often, Rick, on the track in Australia now.
Not too often at all. It's interesting to note, in fact, just quickly in lane one, it's 12 years since Paul Narracott won his first senior sprint title at the Nationals. A long time ago. He's been a great sprinter over the last decade. But as you mentioned, Darren Clark is the current star. And his performance in Seoul was great. He showed yesterday that he's getting back into good shape with a great win in the 400. And he'll be keen to pick up the sprint double here today. Outside Darren is Clayton Carney, a former national title holder over 200 metres, who won very impressively, in fact, in 1985. In the Canberra Stadium in this event, and I think he's the main one for Darren to beat. If Carney can lead Darren around the bend, we could have a very interesting race on our hands.
And Ballard outside those two is not too much slower than them this year.
Robert Ballard, a very solid customer. I was most impressed with his running in the relays in Seoul in the 4x400. Very courageous running, and he'll fight all the way.
He's in a red and white top in lane 6. Clark a little slow off the blocks. Carney certainly beat him out. Ballard going fast too, and those two are pursuing the lead. Now Clark starting to unwind on the bend, and I think he's going to straighten up in a winning position. Carney's in front of him now. Can Clark mow him down? Ballard is third, and over on this side, Douglas running a big race. Here comes Clark. He is mowing him down, and that's a great win by Darren Clark. Carney second. I think Ballard hung on for third. Oh, but a mighty straight by Darren.
Great home straight by Darren, and more importantly, I think a good home straight because he kept his cool all the way. I think he could sense that he could get to Clayton Carney, provided he didn't force it. He really had to just let it happen and concentrate on his form. Carney here with a metre or so break.
just starting to move the head, getting tired, and I think Darren could sense that, but rather than tighten up, he just used the whole straight to get there, and I think that was very sensible, very cool running. Very good running indeed. And in the end, a fairly comfortable yet narrow victory over Clayton Carney, and Andrew Douglas finishing very well out in lane 9, the outside lane, for third. But Darren will be pleased to win that. There's a bit of rivalry between he and Clayton Carney. There has been for some time. And that's a good sprint double in tough conditions.
4.2 metre per second headwind. Clark cutting through that in the straight for what was quite a respectable 21.27 to complete the 200-400 double.
Marie Holland, who was aiming for a treble at these championships, but went down in the first leg, the 100 metres. She has won the 400, and she's hot favourite to win the 200. Her best ever, 22.83 last year. Third best by an Australian behind the greats, Denise Boyd and Raylene Boyle. But some keen competition from Suzanne Broderick, who won the 100 metres, Kathy Sambell and Sue Butler, who were place getters in the short sprint. Should be a very interesting race indeed, Tim. Certainly Marie Holland comfortable with winning national titles. She's won a couple over this distance in the past, but she has outside her Suzanne Broderick, who I think could be one of the rising stars in women's sprinting in Australia. Much faster out of the blocks as a rule than Marie, so I think Marie's going to be behind at some stage, but should have too many punches. And Holland was slow. Broderick beat her out by a considerable distance off the blocks, and Broderick doing well, covering Mullen, Peterson, Moore and Butler on her outside. Now Holland starting to unwind on the bend. As they straighten up, Broderick is nicely clear of Holland, and she might complete the sprint double. Holland and Sambell second and third, but Broderick's got them beaten, and this is a great performance by Suzanne Broderick, upsetting Marie Holland in the 200, with Sambell finishing third. And that is the upset of these championships. Well, it certainly is, because coming into the championships, the talk was all about Marie Holland doing the sprint treble. But there's Suzanne Broderick, great winner in the 100 yesterday, making it a fine double, an excellent double, especially after a superb first turn, where she really laid down the law and said to the others, well, catch me if you can. And I know one person that'll be very pleased is Wally Foreman in Western Australia. Suzanne Broderick with his institute. She's come back after 3 years of injury, 3 years of stress fractures to take the sprint double. And you can see she's well clear of the field. Marie Holland really feeling the pressure, not being able to drag her back in. Kathy Sambell running a great race just inside Marie. And Broderick just getting a little tired, the head starting to move a bit near the line. But nonetheless, a comfortable victory over a very well-performed athlete, an Olympic finalist nonetheless.
23.77 outside the Commonwealth Games qualifying standard, but a loud message for the future from Suzanne Broderick. Perhaps Holland's ambitious schedule told at the end of a tough 3 days.
Suzanne, if I'd have told you a week ago that you'd win the sprint double at the Nationals, would you have believed me?
No, I just came over here hoping to make the finals of both events, so I'm wrapped.
Well, the 200 was the main aim originally, wasn't it?
Yeah, that is my favourite event, so very pleased indeed.
Rick Mitchell smiling like a Cheshire cat as he comes back into that chair. You told me before the 100 that she might do pretty well in the sprints, and she didn't let you down.
No, I was very pleased to see her do well. Pleased because she's come back after the 3 years of stress fracture problems, and it's great to see someone bounce back from that. She's a very exciting talent, and I think it was obvious with the way she was covering the ground in the 200 that there's a very classy athlete there, and perhaps with 12 months of continued improvement, we could have maybe a minor medal chance in Auckland.
Someone to fill the void left by Denise Boyd and Raylene Boyle, perhaps?
I think she could be, Tim. There are a couple of reasons for saying that. She's got beautiful stride length and covers the ground well, great leg speed, and she's pretty strong and obviously courageous. She had to fight on a bit at the end of the 200. I think they're all fine attributes, and I think she's got a great future ahead of her.
Well, back to the field for one last time now, and the men who reached the highest heights, the pole vaulters, are a pretty competitive bunch in Australia at the moment.
The pole vault competition is always one of the most exciting on a track and field program. The exhilaration of soaring towards the stars provides the adrenaline flow for these brave exponents of the art. Neil Honey had won the event for the past 3 years, but the best he could manage this time was 4.80 metres. South Australian Tim Foster had emerged as the man to beat after a recent 5.40 metre effort. Here, though, he cleared 5 metres, only to miss 5.20. All of which left Simon Arkell, the South Australian now based in America, who'd recently cleared 5 metres 44 indoors.
I was very nervous going into that competition because my good friend Tim Foster had just jumped 540. And my girlfriend told me on the phone that day, and I was just absolutely petrified. So I went in and jumped 544, and that just gave me a much better feeling coming into this competition.
It turned out to be an ideal preparation as the 22-year-old cleared 5 metres 20 to take his first Australian Open title. After missing at 5:35, the official result read Arkell 5:20, Foster second with 5 metres, and Honey third at 4:80.
And the pole vault, one of a few positives emerging, Rick, from the field competition.
Yes, it was, Tim. Traditionally in the vault there's been one dominant person at any given time, Ray Boyd and Neil Honey more recently, but now we've got 3 good vaulters, 2 of whom are up around the 5:40 mark, which is a great sign. And I think only the weather on the day of competition prevented us from seeing some 5:40 jumping in Australia.
And other good field performances?
Well, there are a number. Certainly Costain in the disc was a good performance. One of the highlights for me was seeing Gary Honey back in good shape after his injury in Seoul, and I think he's obviously determined to bounce back from that with a great performance in Auckland.
And your track highlights?
Well, there are a number, and I think we've spoken a lot about Kerry Saxby, and that for me was the obvious highlight. World records are always great to see. I think the other was certainly Suzanne Broderick emerging in the women's sprints without any doubt, and I think once again the depth in the men's 400 metre running.
Rick, great to have you with us again. Thanks for joining us. Well, traditionally track and field competitions end with relays, and the real class at these 89 Australian Nationals was in the men's 4x400. Now the men's 4x4 features a very strong New South Wales team of Darren Clark, Mark Garner, Miles Murphy and Stephen Perry. Strong international flavour, Fiji and New Zealand in as well, 4 Australian states.
Tim, I think the New South Wales team could really only lose this if they drop the baton. I think they're a great side, 3/4 of the Olympic final side, which is really a pretty impressive lot to put out at this point in time. And the interesting thing is that Darren Clark's running the first leg for New South Wales, the shortest leg in the 4x4, and I've always believed you run your best athletes in the second and fourth legs. They're the slightly longer ones and you get better value out of them. Clark at the end of a great national championships with wins in the 400 and 200, and he should make it a treble here, running the first leg for New South Wales. And away they go. Victoria, Tasmania, New South Wales, New Zealand, Fiji and Queensland with the inside running. Giant stagger as they go into the back straight. And I wonder how far Darren Clark can put New South Wales in front at the end of this first leg. He runs a short leg here, starting with the stagger and just running to the finishing line. Well, that's poetry in motion that we just saw there. One of the finest quarter milers in the world, and he's really started to eat in to the 600 metre staggers, which they have in this event from the 2 outside runners. He should send New South Wales off into the second leg with a very comfortable lead indeed. Just about to go past Troy Bennett, the Tasmanian athlete, and Darren Byrneston, who's run in the outside lane for Victoria. But New South Wales already setting up a commanding lead, handing over to Mark Garner, who's going to take them round to the crossover point. Yes, don't be deceived by that stagger as they came down the home straight, because they've run that first bend of the second lap in their lanes, and so now you can see Garner putting New South Wales in front, although Clark really did the work on that first lap. So New South Wales leading, New Zealand up there, Victoria coming across from the outside into third position. But New South Wales with a nice break. 130 to go on the second leg. Mark Gunner looking nice and relaxed as well, and a very handy lead. It's lovely, to, of course, to be able to run in a relaxed way when you have that 8 or 10 metre buffer that he currently has. Kevin Oakey's run a great leg to take the Victorians into second after they were out of it at the crossover, so it's been a good strong leg. Queensland still in the thick of things for a medal, but handing over to Miles Murphy, the world junior track and field champion at this distance from 1986. Murphy had a disappointing individual 400 metre race, finished well back. He's taken the baton a long way in front, just had a little peep over the shoulder, I thought, as he went into the back straight. Leads from Victoria, New Zealand and Queensland. Well, in fact, that's Darren Byrneston running for Victoria now, but Miles Murphy has a commanding lead. And this will be a good thing for Miles. He's not had a chance to relax in his races lately too. He's been under pressure racing against Darren Clark and so on. And I think he's now got the chance to feel the tempo of a nice, fast 400 without quite the same pressure. And he's looking the best he's looked for some time in this particular leg. It's been a great leg by Miles, and in fact, he's opened up the lead even further. Now the junior Stephen Perry with the chance to run the anchor leg and bring home the bacon for New South Wales. He's got the stick and he's got a lead of 35 metres from New Zealand, Victoria and then a long break to Queensland.
Stephen Perry's had a very busy weekend running in the senior and under 2400 finals, the senior and under 20 relays. Just a grimace there. Perhaps he is starting to feel the pinch slightly, but he's got a very handy buffer. Lee Miller, the Victorian, one of the most improved athletes in the country, has taken them into second place, but it looks all New South Wales. Long lead to Perry as he comes off the last bend into the home straight. Good 30 metres up his sleeve. Miller and Chris Rogers of New Zealand fighting it out for second and third. But all New South Wales, tremendous team of Clark, Garner, Murphy and Stephen Perry it is who comes home in front. Second placing to New Zealand, and a tired Lee Miller after winning the 400 hurdles earlier today takes third for Victoria. Well, it's a pretty good team. There's no doubt about that. Stephen Perry, I think, also one of the most promising young athletes in the country. Runner-up, in fact, in the World Junior 400 title last year in Sudbury, Canada. So it's a great way to anchor a team. It's nice to know that you can lead off with a pretty big trump like Darren Clark and still have someone of Stephen Perry's calibre to carry things home at the end.
Well, that time not quite comparing with the 84 Los Angeles Olympics Australian record time of 2:59.7, but New South Wales much too good, New Zealand second and Victoria third. Well,
slowing down.